Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Doric Sithole, the managing director of a communications and marketing company. She has experience in all things communication, including radio, marketing, and digital media. Doric, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Riaz, for having me. It's such a pleasure. These are conversations that I enjoy a lot. We also get to learn just from getting the questions as well, just to find out where people are in terms of their struggles. So thank you so much for actually offering me a platform to have a conversation with young professionals.
Brilliant. Let's jump straight into the conversation. Tell us your story, where do you come from, and even outside of work, who is Doric Sithole? Give us that backstory.
Well, Doric Sithole is a female. I won't mention my age because our age is so golden and it's a secret. But I'm originally from Zimbabwe. I moved to South Africa to come and study, and I did my tertiary education at Wits University. After that, I literally didn't go back home, and I've been here since 2005. I feel like I've become a dinosaur in the country, but also just getting an understanding of just fitting into the context of things socially. Come from a family of five, and very passionate about women empowerment. Those are some of the things that I do on the side. So I studied media studies when I was at university, and we do take pride in ourselves as Witsi. Someone was telling me today that when you discover someone is from another university, you always go in and you say, oh, no, you're not a blue blood. But there was something about going to Wits when you were looking for a job. And we're going to talk about it in my conversation in terms of how that's changed right now. But I'm a Witsi. Proudly so, did media studies, also focused on international relations because, to be honest, I actually wanted to work for the United Nations. And I was an aspiring chartered accountant, by the way, just to add that in when I was in high school. But things changed as I got older and I went into the media space. But after university, I had no idea what to do with myself. I could not take what I'd learned at university to fit in the employment space and say to myself, this is what I did, this is a job description. And I think that's why these conversations are very important, just to highlight to people that sometimes you might not have the information, but somehow, I'm so happy to say that marketing found me, the career found me. I was an intern in a company, and I remember my boss's words were, okay, I run a consultancy company, I've got a media studies student, and I've got an international relations student, and he used to do events for African Union, and he asked me one powerful question that I never forgot. He said to me, what do you have that's going to help my company grow? What do you bring to the table that's going to take me to where I want to be? So I didn't study your media studies, but you're the only one who can actually set the benchmark of what excellence looks like. And I never forgot those words, because it was a struggle for me. I didn't understand how to take the theory, make it practical, going for interviews, and they're asking you, so Doric, lovely CV and everything. You went to Wits, oh, lovely. So how do you fit media studies into our company? And I couldn't explain that. So I think those are the things that we never forget, because those are words that changed my life in terms of how I viewed myself. I immediately switched into leadership mode. And from there, all I can say was onwards and upwards in terms of the work that I started doing. Marketing found me in terms of positions. I created a logo for this company where I was an intern. I sketched designs as a hobby. So I created his logo, sketched a website on a Word document, and that went into my CV. And the next job I got, that's what I got to showcase, to say, hey, I'm creative. I'm good with colors. I can sketch logos. And I'm saying this to encourage a lot of people who tend to struggle with trying to fit what they did at university and take that into the labor market. And you get into an interview and all of a sudden it's a bombshell. You realize that you don't know as much as you thought you did. And versus going back and moaning and getting depressed, you find yourself in those spaces. Be aware, listen to the things that are said to you, and navigate around that. So right now, I can safely say I'm the marketing and communications expert. Did that for 10 years, into 11 years, found my purpose, and I left the corporate space. And I've been a consultant for almost 3 years, doing talk, corporate radio for a financial institution. I train and facilitate on communications, emotional intelligence, change management, everything that's still aligned to what I did in corporate. But the difference is that I get to express my personal brand by serving people. And that's different from what I did for the 10 years. And I'm very grateful for that experience as well.
And outside of work?
Well, outside of work, I love dancing. I love dancing. So I did Latin and ballroom when I was at university. I'm a lover of music. I'm a lover of jazz. I also serve in the church. I believe in God, and my spiritual foundation. I always go back there when everything else just doesn't work. I can safely say that's where my strength comes from. So I sing as well, and just don't ask me to do it right now. I do sing in praise and worship, but I spend a lot of time with my daughter. I'm a mother to a 7-year-old, and that's the greatest gift that God has given to me, because each and every day I look at her, I see a bit of myself in her, and I can't fight it because it's like fighting your own twin. But the beauty of being a nurturer also just teaches you a lot about how this human being is going to grow up, and we create a legacy of the things that we want to see just by exposing them to different things. So outside of that, I love to read books as well. Everything that has to do with Doric is somehow embedded in reading. Leaders are readers. And part-time, I do events for women empowerment, like I mentioned. I have a platform called Diamond Women Africa. And everything linked to my company has a diamond in it. And I'll explain that later in terms of the why, the diamond. But basically, that's that. That's Doric for you.
Okay, amazing. So, I mean, you mentioned consultant, you mentioned coach. I've seen radio
Yes.
presenter, marketing
Yeah.
manager, communications manager, digital media manager, working for the British High Commission. These are all seem to be like very, very different skills. Like, how do you manage to marry all of them?
Well, I just realized that when you go into a space and you begin to tap into your own strengths, there's no limit to what you can do. And I always used to get that question. Someone would say, but how did you move from mail and garden and the next thing you're doing this? So versus panicking and trying to live up to the worldly standard where someone says to you, but your CV must be consistent. If you're in banking, why are you not just doing banking? I think my CV is a reflection of what happens when you're a perpetual learner. So I get bored easily. So for me, my brain starts thinking, what else, what else, what else, what else, what else, what else do we do with ourselves? And that has turned me into a perpetual learner. I mean, those jobs you see in there, I did not study any of those things you see on my CV. And it's because I would get a job. The first job at the British High Commission, they said to me, your cover letter was so dynamic. We looked at you and we said, you could do this job. And I was up against people with 10 years marketing experience. And that was an opportunity for me to say, okay, I don't know how to manage a website. I have no idea how that's done in terms of the behind the scenes, but I can tell you this, you teach me something, I will level up and I'm going to probably be the best digital manager we've ever had. And I kept that promise. I did some things that had never been done because I don't get comfortable in any position. I constantly ask myself, what else can you do? How do you grow? How do you move from this? What else is outside the box? And leveraging on your strengths is one thing, and that's something I wanted to flag, to say when you realize that you learn pretty quickly, you love to learn, you're open-minded, take those strengths and say to yourself, this now represents who Doric is. So how does Doric stand out from the crowd? If she's creative, so because I get bored easily, it means I'm constantly looking for other things that can be refined so that they're better. So you want someone like that in a space like digital marketing, because I was working for an embassy and everybody said, but how do you market an embassy on Twitter? That is so boring. It's so diplomatic. What else do you say? So I had to come out of the box and think of content. And I realized, hey, Mr. Bean is from Britain and everybody knows who Mr. Bean is. And I did a whole campaign about, did you know that Mr. Bean actually has a master's in BSc? And everyone was like, what? So we grew the Twitter following from 1,000 to 5,000 in 1 year,
Wow.
simply because I I refused to be comfortable. And I literally said to myself, there's got to be something else outside of what we're seeing right now. So I'd safely say I'm a miner. I go deep. I don't do surface level things. So I always believe there's something more to what we're seeing in the surface. And if we all did that, you'll discover more, firstly, about who you are, what you can become. So when you discover more, you are more, and you get more in return. So those positions keep coming in. So from that high commission position, I never became anything less than a manager, because I'd get in and be able to back myself up with the track records of what I've done without the experience of being a marketing manager. And I like to share this because there's so many people who sit and they say, oh, I've got years to go. I have no experience. I volunteered. I didn't study marketing. And yet a job will find you simply because of your mindset and where you are in that particular moment. And when it does, take the responsibility to do whatever's needed to hold on to it, to grow beyond what you thought you could be, and everything else just aligns.
Amazing, amazing. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk to the young professionals out there. So, I mean, there's quite a few people who maybe they haven't focused on their communication skills in their career yet. There's some of them think that their work should maybe speak for itself. What advice do you have for them, or how do they stand out from the crowd in the workplace or in business?
Okay. The one word that I'm going to flag that is so important is awareness, right? So we live a life where we're just floating around. You say whatever you wanted to say in the meeting, or you just open your mouth and things go out. So the one thing I learned about radio that I will never forget is the fact that every time I was on air, I never had the chance to take my words back. So when I speak, there's intention. I should be clear about how I'm starting, how I'm choosing to end that particular link or line. So when it goes out on air, nobody's going to reverse it and say, would like to apologize for what Doric said, we're taking that back. It doesn't happen. It's gone, it's gone. So you have one chance to say a particular sentence or phrase, and at the same time, it's not supposed to sound scripted. You have to be human. It's a conversation. But I'm raising awareness and intentionality because those are the things that I would like to really emphasize for today's conversation. Because when you are not aware, and if you notice where I started with the strengths conversation. What are you good at? So a lot of people, when I train them, they say to me, but Doric, I don't have your voice. I don't have that deep voice. So what do you mean I must, be a good communicator? So you have to be authentic. So I know a lot of people who don't have deep voices, but when they walk into a room, guess what? Communication isn't just verbal. It's your energy. So what are you saying to yourself, first of all, on the inside? Because what you say on the inside is going to show on the outside. So we lack confidence because we don't trust our own content. So you had a meeting, you did not prepare for the meeting, and you want to wing it all of a sudden when you're standing in front of people in the boardroom. And you think because you're dressed properly, your outfit is going to do the talking. It might do the talking when you walk into the room because everybody's going to say, oh, you look lovely. That is just amazing. But what's the objective of the meeting? The objective is that you need to do a presentation. So you did half the work by dressing well, but you didn't complete it because you didn't prepare for the presentation. So communication is about sending out a message. And the cycle is you send out a message with the intention of getting feedback. And that cycle continues, right? So every time you open your mouth to speak, there's intention. Why are you saying what you're saying, Tooways? Why must we listen to you? So when you go in for an interview, it's very clear that you want the job. But there's somebody else who's outside who also has a birth certificate just like you. So why must you get the job? So people must be authentic. So if you know that in as much as you don't have a deep voice, but there's something about your energy, being aware of what's been said to you in the past or what's regularly said about you, listen to your friends, ask your friends, so, what do you think I have? Like when I walk into a room, ask those questions and you'll be shocked that you might not hear what you like, but it's good feedback because then you go back and you go, so apparently when I walk into a room, I look like somebody poured water on me. All of a sudden, your sitting position changes. It's like the world is swallowing you up. You don't want to talk to someone next to you at an event. and we have to look for you because you're gone in a second. And I love the fact that you're a chartered accountant, because there's a stereotype about chartered accountants being introverts and they don't like to talk and they like to keep to themselves. So I wanted to flag something very important to say: in the world we live in now, you have to be versatile. Your title position means absolutely nothing. People don't care about that anymore. They care about the human connection. So when I engage with Tooways, I'm thinking, ooh, okay, he's very friendly. I can hear what he's saying to me. He articulates himself very well, and he makes me want to talk more when I'm engaging with him. And if you are not aware, Tooways, that that's what you have, you will never be able to continue to harness that skill so that it works for you when you walk into a room. So number one, what is your strength? What have people said to you? What do you take into a room? What do you leave when you're gone? So with me, I would walk into a room and first thing people would notice is my hair. And then when I greet, they would say, ooh, your voice. And then the moment I sit down and I engage with the person says, your energy is very welcoming. So until I started doing coaching and I realized those strengths, I wasn't bothered. People would say, you've got a good voice. And I'd say, thanks. And then I did one event and this guy said to me, what are you doing with your voice? And that was the question that actually made me quit my job in corporate. And I said, it's been good. It's been a good 11 years, but I'm going to say goodbye because I want to explore a bit more in terms of who I am. So number one, be aware of your strengths. You've got a strength when it comes to communication. For some people, it's the dress code. There are people who are so slick. When they walk into a room, you're like, whoa, who is that person, right? But I'm saying carry it through. Be the person who walks in with the right outfit, but the moment you open your mouth, allow me to also want to talk further with you. So firm handshakes, we've all learned that, right? But when someone greets you and you respond back with the energy that says, I would like to engage further, the communication goes on. Same thing with presentations. We walk into a room, know the material, and also be vulnerable. You know, when you're being authentic, if you make a mistake, if I was talking to you right now, something happened technically, I would say, oops, sorry, Tooways, I just noticed my volume is a bit dodgy. Let's just go back to the cell phone. I'm not perfect. And the more you do that, the more you realize that you're just a human being who carries the essence of knowing that mistakes will happen. But the greatest challenge, and I'll tell you the stats, literally more than 70% of human beings don't like public speaking. They would rather have a eulogy being read about them versus actually speaking. When we go for interviews, we go on LinkedIn, we look for all the posts that say how to answer questions at an interview. You go on YouTube. You are watching someone who's not you at that particular moment. That person doesn't have your voice. What do? The pitch is not the same. What do you do then? And maybe your pitch is slightly higher than what you're watching. So next thing, you're feeling a bit awkward in the interview because you're going, hi, my name is Doric. Because I thought I heard that in the video and I'm trying to wing it all of a sudden. So finding yourself and saying to yourself, what do I have? If it's the energy, use it, because that's the stuff that's going to get you the job. So communication is not just verbal. It's the stuff that's not said. That's also very important. It's how you look. That's also very important. But most importantly, how you think about yourself, because what we experience is the stuff that's happening on the inside. So if you don't trust yourself, we're going to know. It's going to show.
It's interesting what you say about public speaking, because I had a bit of an epiphany last year about it. I think that 70% stat is true, but the biggest reason that people don't like public speaking because they have this in their mind where they go back to school and they're doing orals for the teacher. And in that position, the teacher is the person in power and you are the one being assessed, so you don't have the power. But they don't realize in the corporate world, when you are speaking, you are the person with the power, not the audience. The audience is there to listen to you. And that mind shift, it made a massive difference for me.
Yeah. And you can see the mindset plays a big role. So when I do my coaching for trainings, I do inside out. I want to remove the weeds first when I deal with an individual, because my question is, what made you get to this place right now? Why do you think that you're not confident? Who said what to you when you were growing up? What do your friends say to you on a regular? You know, some friends can be mean. They'll say, oh, we don't go with you to other places because, yeah, when are you? We're not really, you don't have that thing. You don't have the buffer home. So we'll leave you out of this one. Then they act like it's a joke. But slowly but surely, they're planting a seed on the inside of you. And if you don't do the job of removing the weeds and saying, this is not who I am, it's not part of my identity, I am confident. And even though I'm different from everybody else, I can articulate myself. And if I don't, I'm going to develop myself. I'm going to read. I'm going to take courses. I'm going to get a mentor. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to watch stuff. I mean, YouTube has so much right now. You don't need to go to university for public speaking anymore or study it. It's online. And I always say connect with the one person that you hear more and can relate to, because there's so many voices. And so with me, I listen to a gentleman called Myron Golden. And I connect with the guy, but some other people would feel like, yeah, he does too much of the sales thing. I feel like he's a bit arrogant, but I connected with him. I used to watch Oprah a lot. I listened to a lot of Maya Angelou because of her deep voice. And I needed to embrace the fact that a deep voice works. I shouldn't feel like, because family members would say, oh, you sound like a man on the phone. And that's the stuff that affects us, because now I've carried that from childhood. Now I'm walking into a room with the voices in my head that become sabotage, because now they're sabotaging everything I'm trying to do. And in an interview, I always find it shocking that Tooways gets a job, right, after an interview. He becomes a manager. All of a sudden, the confidence goes flat on the floor. You're leading a team and you're struggling to communicate something because you only prepared to get the job. You didn't prepare as Tooways, who's actually a leader, who sees himself beyond the interview. So communication shouldn't just be focused on the event. Let it be a part of you. So when I go to an event, sometimes I will connect with one person and trust that, because my intention is to connect with people, I never go to an event that's a waste, because that's the statement I've made. I've said to myself, when I walk into a room, either I'm pouring into someone or someone is pouring into me. And the moment I say hi, magic happens, right? Because I've said this to myself, I've activated certain things. And so if you got the job, you had an interview, surely there's something that you did right. What happened to the staff? So now all of a sudden you're a manager and you're starting to feel like you're not confident because you separated yourself from the whole communication aspect. So if I had a choice, communication would be compulsory at every tertiary institution. It should be a module, whether you're an engineer, even if you are a sociologist, whatever it is, at some point, this is going to have to work. You're going to have to lead a team. And without that skill, we can't lead effectively.
Agreed. For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end. So if you have any questions, please add them to the comment section now. Let's talk a little bit about that confidence and being a better presenter. Some people say, okay, it's great, but I'm not confident. But
Yeah.
do we have any tips for them on what they can do to be a better presenter, maybe avoid things they've done in the past? How do they start to get better? You did mention the one thing, preparation obviously is key.
Yes.
Anything else that you can share with us?
Well, so preparation, practice, 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 practice. So I always say to people, learn to start recording yourself. We don't want to hear ourselves. We don't want to see ourselves. So videos, right? So if you know that, and I love the space with chartered accountants, because when I do talks with individuals who are outside of the space, if you start doing consultations and you're running a consulting business as a chartered accountant, you do realize that you have to talk to a client. And you can't say to the client, well, when it comes to the numbers, I do my thing on the spreadsheet, so don't worry about my voice or anything like that. I'll be very worried as a client. So it doesn't fly like that, unfortunately, in the world. So we're finding that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, the practice helps you. So doing a 1-minute pitch, and I'll give you an example of what the 1-minute pitch should be. Who are you? What do you do? How do you do what you do? And why do you do what you do, right? So spending time to actually look at aspects that have to do with your identity. So I'll give you an example in terms of what I do. So my name, Doric, is a Greek name. So the moment I introduce myself to people, they go, wait a minute, I know Derek, Doris and Dorcas, but what's up with your name? So already I'm aware that my name triggers a conversation, right? And I need to ride on that wave to say, okay, so my name is a trigger. So how do we carry over? So imagine if I said, yeah, it's a Greek name, thanks, and I'm done. But the person wanted to engage more. So for me, I take it a notch up and I say, yeah, it's actually a Greek name. It means column and a pillar because I'm a coach. So I offer support. So there's something symbolic about my name, even though I discovered it afterwards, but it's a support structure. So I do coaching, I facilitate, and I communicate with people. That's what I enjoy doing. And how I do it is that I make sure I use my voice in different spaces so I can continue to serve, be it in radio, training and facilitation, women empowerment. If you think about Doric, think about my voice. That is my superpower. And I'm done. That was not a minute. But what you remember is my name because it's unique. And once in a while, I'll drop in the whole diamond aspect because everything I do has a diamond in it. And when people leave, they'll say, oh, you're the diamond lady. So I saved your number as Doric Diamond or Doric the Pillar or Doric the Column. So have something that you know about yourself that you want to drop in there. Practice when you need to do a presentation. Practice the 1 minute pitch. Who are you? Hi, my name is Lerato. I'm a chartered accountant. And I'm very passionate about, just the accounting space. The way I help people is different because everybody else is chasing spreadsheets. What I do is different. I want to engage with the individual so that they can grow their business. And how we do that is that we consult with our clients virtually. We don't have an office yet, but the way we do it is we just want to make sure that we connect with people in different spaces. And we do eventing as well because we want to connect with people so they get to understand what the accounting industry is really about. And someone says, oh, really? So I've got a friend who actually needs help. You're done. You don't have to go. I studied at Wits University and then I moved from there. You're taking your whole CV. People don't have time. So when you do a 1 minute pitch, and I want people to think about this as keywords. What are the keywords you would add in to introduce yourself? You do a mind map. So with me, my name would go in there. My voice would go in there. Coaching would go in there. Facilitation would go in there. Women empowerment. So your values and your belief system must be a part of your 1 minute pitch because in that 1 minute, I must feel like I know who Tooways is. And if I don't connect with you, by the way, as a human, I will not be prepared to listen to anything else outside of what you've said because first, people connect to the brand called you before they connect to what you're selling. So before you tell us about, oh yeah, so we can actually come and meet with you, because people get into the whole thing and they go, yeah, so can we set up a meeting with you? And I'm already agitated because I'm thinking, wait a minute, why are you selling stuff? I want to get to know you. So I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm very passionate about what you do. I love hiking, I enjoy it. And guess what? You might discover that the person you're talking to also loves hiking because you were human. And let the person be the one to dig further in terms of what you do, because then it doesn't feel like sales. You go in, you start putting in your stuff bit by bit. So practice for me, read books that have to do with communication. So I brought this copy just to flag this. So this is Dale Carnegie, Make Yourself Unforgettable, How to Become the Person Everyone Remembers and No One Can Resist. Imagine that title. No one will be able to resist you if you actually tap into your strengths. Practice. If your voice is always on a low level, and every time you're in a meeting, awareness comes in now. Every time you're in a meeting and you have to respond, people keep doing this. And then people go, please repeat that. Sorry, please repeat that. Be aware that people can't hear you sometimes and start taking your pitch slightly upwards, but don't be awkward about it. Don't go, ah! It's just practice. There's videos on using the right pitch based on your tone and the pace as well. So I find that when people get nervous, they're very quick. It's like, hi, my name is Doric, and there's the excitement of who you are, and you want to tell the whole story, and then you're all over the place. So imagine I'm doing an interview right now, and my hands are literally at the forefront, and it becomes a bit, a distraction because now you're making us dizzy with your hands, and we don't hear what you're saying. So people say I'm a mannequin because when I sit automatically, because I've been practicing this for years, when I sit, my legs cross, my hands know what to do automatically. I put them on my lap and I have a particular position. So my friends call me a mannequin because they take pictures and they show me after an event. They're like, how in the world do you shift into a mannequin in 2 seconds after sitting down? Because I've been practicing. So when you sit, don't sit like you fell on the chair. Sit like someone with intention, get yourself together. And when you speak, allow the ones, and I'm talking to introverts right now. Introverts get overwhelmed by the extros. So an extrovert wants to talk over you all the time because we get excited. And I'm saying we because I'm a half intro, half extro. So the passion becomes so much that sometimes we don't listen. So Tooways comes into the room and he wants to express or address an issue, and he's being very subtle and he's very mellow in his expression. Then Doric comes and says, yeah, I hear you Tooways, but so what I was saying was, so the extras are always at that level. The pitch is different from yours. Your power as an introvert lies in you being able to pause, listen, which is a skill that a lot of people don't have. It's part of the skill that you need in communications. Listen more than you talk, because then you know what to say in response and you can gather the facts better, versus the extro who's using energy and passion and not fixing the content. So in the end, the extros tend to apologize a lot. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I might have missed that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But an intro has the power to say, I'd like to say something. I hear you, but I just had a question. Could we please go back to that first spreadsheet that you had and let's have a look at the numbers, because I don't think the numbers actually match. You pause, you're slow, you're stating what you're stating, and everybody all of a sudden is listening to what you're saying because you took your time to say what you said and you were not scratching the extras. You let them do their thing. So harnessing the power of being an introvert, but even for the extroverts, you don't have to be extra. You've got absolutely nothing to prove because you already have the pitch, you already have the passion, but everything is about control. So communication is about being able to control what you're about to deliver, delivering it in the right manner, in the way that you want to do it. So it's control. So if I want people to listen, I'll walk into a room and I'll say, my name is Doric and I'm in the business of mining human diamonds. And then I'll keep quiet. Then people are wondering, human diamonds, what is that? And I pause for a bit because the intention is to get your attention. So you have so many things you can play with, and that's why it's so important in terms of how we started, to understand who you are. Play around with your strengths and say, my strength is my energy. So how do I walk into a room and say, hi, my name is Doric and I do radio. So what do you do? I'm done.
So many hidden gems in there. And I've also got a few more questions, but there's some questions coming through from the audience and I don't want to miss it. So I just want to go over to audience questions. A question from Joseph, who says, what strategies can businesses implement to enhance internal communication?
Well, so I found that the corporate space is very interesting. They focus more on their clients and they forget that the first brand you should be focusing on is the internal brand, which is your staff members. So getting your staff members to really feel like we understand what we do, why we do it as a company, because when we go out there, we can talk about our company with understanding because we're a part of it. So there are a lot of companies that have what you call the intranet, right? And they push everything in their birthdays. They'll say, oh, happy birthday, Tooways. And they put Tooways' pictures in there, and bubbles and everything. But I found that over the years, when I started doing internal communications, one of the core things I started doing was to connect with the human being, to ask ourselves as businesses, if we do internal communication, why do we need to do it? Internal means we're talking to our staff members and employees. So just like I started in terms of branding, you cannot sell a brand on the outside if internally people don't know what you do and why you do it. So sell the vision to me first as the employee. And how you do that can come in different facets. Highlight what is happening on the outside. So if you're doing a CSI event as a business, if you are branching into a conference and you are going to be leading on the conference, the first people to know about it must be your staff members. So what businesses do, they go, we don't have time for employees. Let's make sure Facebook, people know who we are. Are you boosting the posts? You are boosting the posts, but the people that are meant to help sell the brand that are very important are your staff members. So create an environment where I can feel proud to be a part of the business. Create internal events. So I used to do fitness Fridays for the fun of it in the parking lot, and we had like an astroturf. And it was a wellness thing, but I realized that everybody was participating, the cleaners and everybody else, managers. There was no hierarchy. So internal communication must be used as a strategy just to allow your employees to feel at home, to embrace the vision of the business. And you do that by coming up with different ways of connecting with your employees, Facebook, engaging with them, do birthdays, celebrate a manager's birthday with another employee who's not a manager, just to show them that, hey, we're all at the same level. Your manager's picture doesn't have to have all the balloons. And then Doric's picture is gray because she is an administrator. So everybody must be treated the same way because you're trying to connect with everyone as a human being.
No, that's a great, I think that helps a lot. One more question we'll take, and it's again also from Joseph, who says, what are the impacts of digital communication tools on personal relationships?
Well, I find the digital space a space where you've got all the freedom you could have, but at the same time, there's control that needs to happen. So you'll find that whenever we engage in the digital space, we forget that you are now a brand. So if you're on LinkedIn, and I find a lot of people not adding pictures on their LinkedIn profiles, but then you're sending a message to Doric and you're saying, hi, Doric, I'd like to connect with you. The moment I don't see a picture, it's a no for me, because I'm thinking, why don't you have a picture? Who are you? So don't be a ghost, and also get to understand what you're trying to do with the digital space. So if you're on Facebook, why are you on Facebook? I know people who don't use Facebook. If you're on LinkedIn, why are you on LinkedIn? What are you trying to do with the LinkedIn account that you have? So if it's about connecting with people, personal relationships do matter, because I know personal relationships that have turned into business relationships and all of that in one go, but also having an understanding that that communication must be controlled. Know what you're saying. So 3 things that I always flag, right? Always speak as if someone is recording you. Write like what you've written will be on a billboard tomorrow morning, right? And dress up like you're going to meet the one person you've always wanted to meet in your life. So digitally speaking, what you do in the digital space is a reflection of who you are. So don't use the F-bombs and say, oh, hashtag, @ full stop, $sign, and because you are responding to something from a level of somebody else. If I'm representing myself as a brand in the digital space, it does have an impact in terms of how people view me. So my friends, that's a personal relationship, right? Can really say that Doric is still a brand even when she engages with us. I can see a part of who Doric is when I go to her Facebook. I can see her values, I can see her beliefs, because I'm using the digital tools to engage with people for personal relationships and for business. So understand why you're using the digital tools. If it's Instagram, are you doing it as an influencer? Are you doing it because you want to make sure that everybody who searches you online gets to see the best of you? So I'm going to flag one important thing. Get a photo shoot. Get a photo shoot. Get a photo shoot. Get the right pictures, people. Get the right pictures. Do not wait for that magazine cover to come along and then you say, well, actually, for that interview, I don't have pictures. Get a photo shoot done, something clean and slick, and try and project yourself as that person who's ready to lead. So I did a photo shoot before I started doing what I'm doing. I prepared for such things. So if Tooways had said to me, send us a picture, I wasn't going to panic because I prepared for this 3 years ago. So prepare.
I think that's a great way to answer all the questions. Any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you want the audience to know?
Well, I wanted to read 2 lines that people need to take away in terms of integrity, because I didn't mention that. Always speak like your stuff is going to be on a billboard and recorded, because it says a lot about integrity. And so it says, a facade, no matter how well worn, does not assist you in any front, right? And don't put up a face. Be yourself. Harness the skills and the strengths that you have, and the world will embrace you as much as you embrace yourself, because we're getting to see who you really are, and we can get to experience everything else from there, because you're not trying to be anything else but yourself. And treat yourself with integrity. Everything you do does matter. Everything you say matters. And always remember that there's some things that might come back in the future when you become something. And people say, oh, Doric did a tweet and it was so rude. All of a sudden, she's the African version of Oprah Winfrey. And it comes back to bite you. So treat yourself with respect. Be aware of who you are. Know why you do what you do. Be a perpetual learner. Keep learning. Read books. And expand yourself in many ways.
I think that is an amazing way to end. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Doric, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Grace, for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.